I really hope I can get through this video, because even now, as I'm thinking about talking about this, it makes me so angry slash sick slash sad. I'm so disappointed. This is the story about how we lost $100,000 within 24 hours. So before I get into the video, do all the things below. Do the like, do the subscribe, follow me on Instagram, and do all that, and we'll get right into it. So I want to tell you the story about how we lost $100,000 in 24 hours. It makes me so mad. Okay, so all the way back in October, my wife and I were in the process of renovating one of our house flips. We had quite a bit of money tied up in not only this house flip, but two other house flips that as of this date are almost done. They should be done within about 2 weeks. Anyway, we were just starting this process, and a realtor called me up and said, "Hey, I hear you guys like to purchase investment properties." And I said, "Yes, 100% we like to purchase investment properties. What do you have?" And he said, "I have a fourplex, and the sellers are looking to get rid of it. They're asking a great price. And are you interested?" I said, "What is the price? Tell me about the units, the size, the condition, the year, all this kind of stuff." So this property, they're asking $250,000, and it was built in 1994. So pretty new as far as properties go. And we said, yes, 100% we are interested. Now, in comparison, we had just bought a property for $300,000 that was a little bit older, had similar sized units. And so the fact that this one was newer, in better condition, and $50,000 cheaper, we said, yes, 100% we are interested. So the problem with this, though, is we didn't have any money. All of our money was tied up in these house flips. So we negotiated back and forth with the sellers, and we said, look, if you would be willing to do a 90-day close, we will buy your property. And to show you that we're really interested, we will give you $5,000 in non-refundable earnest money if we can't close. So the sellers went back and forth a little bit, and they came back and said, you know what, 90 days is just a little bit longer than we would like. But if you're willing to raise the purchase price to $261,000, we'll accept and we'll sign that deal. So I was a little bit bummed, because now we're paying $11,000 more than we had initially been offered, and went back and forth. But I thought to myself, and I said, this is still a great deal. If I found this deal on the MLS or anywhere else for $261,000, I wouldn't even bat an eye. And so we said, yes, we accept. Even though they were asking $261,000 on this property, it was easily worth $375,000. The reason for that is because the rents were so low. The tenants had been living there for 4 or 5 years in all the units except for one. And even the one unit that had just been replaced last year, the rent was still really, really low. We have other units in that exact same area that are renting for $300 to $400 more per month. So we said, this is a slam dunk deal. The cash flow isn't there right now, but as soon as we buy it, we go in, raise rents. This thing is going to cash flow like crazy, and the property is going to be worth $375,000 instead of $261,000. So right then and there, by buying the property, we would make $100,000. So everything was going according to plan. Everything's perfect. We were working on these flips. We actually didn't end up selling one of the flips, but we sold one of our duplexes to be able to take the money from this and put it into the fourplex. So we started our process of getting our loan and everything like that through the bank on December 10th. And we were supposed to close on this property on January 24th. So I realized that there's the holidays and Christmas and a couple other things in there, but I figured, you know what, 45 days, that should be plenty of time to get a loan and be able to go through this whole process and have everything set and ready to go, right? The closing day arrives January 24th, and the bank is not ready. The bank cannot close on January 24th. So we said, okay, no problem, no worries. We will just have the realtor extend the closing contract, and we'll just push it out another week. It'll be fine. And I've done that on dozens of deals. I mean, that's like Okay, maybe not dozens, but we've done it on a lot of deals, and that's not an uncommon thing to just extend that closing date. So we tell the realtor, hey, just go ahead and push out the closing date. The bank isn't ready. We can't close yet. The realtor calls me back and says the sellers are not willing to extend the closing date. They've waited 90 days and they won't do it. So if you cannot close today, you're going to lose out on $5,000 and you're going to lose the property. And I thought to myself, are you kidding me? That's insane. I've never heard of a seller not being willing to extend the contract. I realized that 90 days is longer than typical closings, but we wanted the property. We were very interested. Even though the sellers were being completely ridiculous, we said, fine, we will do whatever we can to close on this property today. We went back and forth with the bank. We went back and forth with the title company. We were calling all these different people, and the bank said, we cannot close on this property today. There's a legal 3 days that you have to wait after the bank sends out closing disclosures. And the bank hadn't sent out closing disclosures, so there was at least a 3-day minimum wait that we had to have before we could close on this property. The bank could not close on January 24th. So we said, you know what? We are going to find all of the cash in the world to be able to buy this property today. And then when the bank can fund and get our loan ready, we'll just pay back the money that we borrow. So I spent the next 4 hours calling all of the hard money lenders that I knew, people who even weren't hard money lenders, but they knew a person who knew a person who knew a hard money lender. We called anyone and everyone that we could. And we were able to come up with $270,000 within the space of 4 hours. We were set. I called up the realtor, said, perfect, we've got the money, let's close. And the realtor said, you will never believe what happened. The sellers agreed to extend the closing. I was frustrated, I was angry, but it's okay. I called all the people back, said, you know what, false alarm, don't need the money. Okay, so 4 days has passed, we are ready to go. And well, we're ready to go, at least I thought. I call up the bank, I check, make sure, and they say, Bryce, I am so sorry. It's stuck in underwriting. There's something going on. We cannot close today. I was furious. Like, I was ready to go and burn the bank down. I was so angry that they couldn't get their stuff together. I was on the phone with multiple loan officers and the managers and everyone that I could talk to, because I said, if we do not close on this property today, the sellers will not extend, we will lose the deal, and we will lose $5,000. And the bank could not close. They did not come through. So I was hoping that the sellers would extend one more day. Say, look, I realize this has been a huge fiasco. The bank is terrible. We hate them. It sucks to work with them. But if you give us one more day, we can close on this property and we can get you your money. The sellers said no. The sellers told us, no, we are not willing to extend. I went back and forth with the title company. I went back and forth with the bank. I went back and forth with the realtor. All of them had said, look, I've been in this business a long time, and in the 15 years that I've been a realtor, in the 15 years that I've been in, working for this title company, as long as I've been a loan officer, I have never seen a seller not willing to extend. We were 1 day late, and the sellers said, you know what? I'm not selling anymore. Because we were late by 24 hours, we lost out on this deal. Now, we decided to get an attorney involved. We said, you know what? You want to sell this property. You signed this agreement. I realize that we're late, but the fact that you signed an agreement to sell the property and you signed an addendum to extend the closing date once, that shows intent. It would have been one thing if we had lost the property, but I also didn't want to lose our $5,000 just because they decided they're not selling. And it's not that they're not going to sell to us. It's that they're not selling, period. They have changed their mind out of the blue. They said, you know what? We are not interested in selling this property anymore. I personally think that it's because they realized that this property was really undervalued. And you know what? Maybe in the future they'll relist it for significantly higher, but they said, we are not selling this property. We went back and forth with an attorney and we said, look, this has to show some intent, and they can't just change their mind, can they? And the attorney, he went through all the documents, all the papers, everything, and he said, you know what? Unfortunately, I really don't think you have a case. You missed the date twice. You're going to lose your $5,000 and you're going to lose the deal. And you're also going to lose $100,000 because you weren't able to close in time. Now, we did end up losing this deal, and we did end up losing $1,000. And the whole thing makes me sick. It makes me so sad. But the sellers, by some miracle, they signed a piece of paper saying, look, we're terminating this deal, but we are willing to give you back your earnest money, your $5,000, if you're willing to sign this termination notice and just wash our hands of this and be done with the whole thing. So because the attorney said, you know what, you don't really have a case, we were ready to go down the path of litigation and, you know, get all this stuff involved. And he said, you know what, you don't have a case. I'm sorry. So we signed the termination notice, we got our $5,000 back, but we did miss out on the property. This has caused so much heartache. I can't tell you how many hours I've been on the phone dealing with crappy realtors and the back and forth and the bank and the title company and all this kind of stuff. And you know what? It is the bank's fault. It really is. But I don't want to go down that road by saying or getting like an attorney involved to sue the bank or anything like that. Like, we have a really good relationship with this bank. And so, yes, they weren't able to pull through, but they've been really good by working with us. They've got incredible rates on all the other deals that we've been able to do. So yes, we lost $100,000, but it could have been worse. Really, that's it. But what is the point of this entire video? Why am I sharing this? Why am I talking about this? And really nothing else other than this is a real estate channel and I like to talk about real estate. But two, to just illustrate that not every deal is cut and dry. One, you can negotiate all the different terms that you want to make this deal work out for your best interest as well as the sellers. But two, sometimes things fall through, funding falls through, deals fall through. Sometimes, I don't know, maybe title isn't correct, or there's something up with the property lines, or a lender just refuses to lend on this property because it's been moved, or the foundation is crumbling away, or, you know, there's all these different things, but it's okay. Things fall through, things happen for a reason. And you know what? We just made another offer on another fourplex. It's not quite as good of a deal, but you know what? It's another offer and we'll see how that goes. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Appreciate you being here. Hopefully you learned a thing or two by me talking about this deal that fell through. Again, I'm really bummed. I'm really sad about it. But you know what? In the end, I think things work out. So thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you guys next week.